Today, our guest is Josh Fonger. Did I pronounce it well? Fonger, Josh? Thank you. Thank you for joining our podcast, Surove Strasti, Croatian podcast. Josh, just to make a framing for this conversation, I've read Sam's book, Sam Carpentera, the author of the Work the System methodology. I've read Sam's book in 2014 or 2013 and really became enthusiastic about making documentation about anything I did on the regular basis, you know. So just to make the introduction, Josh is the business partner of Sam Carpentera, author of the book Work the System. They've been together for 9 years now, right? They also, yeah? 9?
Yep.
You also joined this web program, right? I've been also your customer from the 2016. I've also read the book. I've been to your program, and I've also considered to become a Work the System coach, but didn't have enough time.
Still a chance.
I believe so. If I find like 2 or 3 employees, you know, to find the time. So can you, Josh, please introduce yourself and say a few words on the Work the System. Who is it for? Who is not for? What is Work the System?
Great, Sasha. Thanks for having me on the show. And yeah, for those who don't know, Work the System is an autobiographical book about Sam Carpenter. So it's a book about being stuck in your business, working 7 days a week, late nights, early mornings, just trying to keep a business alive, and then having a mental paradigm shift so that you see your business as systems. And then it gives you the roadmap on how to actually mechanically build your freedom with systems and processes. And so what we do is we just help companies make that transformation happen.
Okay, I've read the book. I've also heard the story. Sam was working 7 days a week, right? For like 15 years. He worked 100 hours a week. And he came to an end, right? Almost went bankrupt. And he had a dream, if I remember well, where he saw everything he did like on a chessboard. All of the activities he did in his business, he finally saw it like a separate elements.
Exactly right. Yeah, I mean, to fix a business is overwhelming. It's a lot. But if you break apart a business into separate pieces, and that's what he saw in his dream. This is when he hit his breaking point, where he literally was sleeping at his business. That's where he lived at his business, and in the middle of the night, he just saw his business as these separate little machines. And he thought, if I fixed each one of these little pieces and put it back together like a puzzle, I wonder if I'd have a perfect business, as opposed to just trying to work harder and put in more effort and borrow more money. And that wasn't working. And so he knew he had to do things differently.
Yeah. So he went from working 100 hours a week to working only 2 hours a week. Correct?
Yeah. Well, now at this point, it's maybe an hour a month because it's been a long time since the book has been written. But for him, he wanted to build the mechanics right so that the company kept growing without him there. And so every year he worked less. Every year he made more. I mean, he's making 100 times more than he was making back then. And he still owns the business, but he doesn't have to do any work in the business because he's enabled his team with the right strategy, with the right principles, with the right procedures to continue taking the company forward. And it's a dream a lot of small business owners have. They just, they don't know the steps they have to take to make that a reality. And it doesn't happen quickly. Like, it's not one of those things where you just get lucky with an advertisement campaign or you get lucky with some new product and then all of a sudden you have a great business. It takes methodical steps, and he details that in the book. And it's, for me, my career is I get to watch companies make that transformation and walk them through it. And, the ones that just take the steps, it's inevitable. It's like math. Yeah. You just know if 1 + 2 equals 3. Like you're going to just keep moving forward.
Yeah. So can you tell me when is the usual time when business owners decide they need to work on their system?
Uh-huh.
What happens before they decide to find a solution?
That's a great question. Yeah, it's a great question because you would think it would be like after the show, they're going to hear about it and they're going to say, hey, I should do that. But that's not the case. When I talk to these people, it's usually after something clicks in their brain and it's an emotional response. So like they go to the hospital because they had a heart attack, or, they missed their kid's basketball game and they just said, you know what, I'm not going to miss my kids' sports games anymore. Or, it's the middle of the night and they're working and their family's all asleep and they're saying, why am I doing this? And they kind of hit this point in their personal life where they just say, I've been doing this long enough. I can't do this anymore. It hurts their health, their relationships, their finances. Like they're just barely making it. And they say, I have to do things differently. And so, I'm always curious when that happens. I mean, it's, when I talk to my clients, it's always something traumatic. Like, they can't pay a bill or their number one manager just left them abruptly. I've had several clients where their key employee ended up dying and they're like, now what do I do? I lost obviously lost them, but then everything that was happening in our company that they were doing, we have no idea how to do it. And we can't do that again. We have to actually build these systems. And so it's usually, unfortunately, it's a traumatic event first. And it doesn't have to be like really traumatic, but it has to be something that gets people to think differently, because up until then, people get comfortable with they get comfortable with the normal, they show up to work, they do their work, they pay their bills. It's hard, but they do it and they're comfortable. And something has to make them feel uncomfortable first.
They get used to like working 10 or 12 hours a day. They don't find anything suspicious about it until they hit the point. Is it like, does burnout usually happen or stuff like that?
Yes. Yeah. It's burnout is definitely one of those things.
So how do they find it? Do they Google like, I need to go to the coaching games from a kid more often, or I want to sell my business? What do they Google? What do they say? How do they find you?
They usually find us from podcasts like this. We've been on hundreds of these shows. The book's been in circulation for over 10 years. We're actually working on the 4th edition right now, putting a bunch of case studies in there. And I've written a bunch in the book as well, because Sam and I have been partners for so long. But it's really just, we keep putting the message out there. And I think it's the only book out there that really deals with this one mechanical piece in businesses. And so they word of mouth, so that's how people find us. Really, is we don't have the flashiest brand in the world, but we've been out there a long time, and so that's how they find us. And what's also interesting is they will read the book and they'll say that makes sense, and then a year later they'll like listen to the audio book and they'll say I should really do that, and then they'll see some ads and they'll say I really want to do, and like 4 years later, they're
4 years customer journey.
And then they're saying, I haven't grown my business at all in 4 years. I'm at the same spot. I should actually do something different. And so, unfortunately, I wish it was faster. I wish it was like, hey, they see it, they buy, and they get some help, but it usually takes longer.
Yeah. Besides Work the System, there's a book, I'm sure you know about it, E-Myth from Michael Gerber. These two books have the same goal, right? But Work the System is the book that deals with the mechanics of the system.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oftentimes.
Would you agree?
I definitely agree. Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, Michael Gerber wrote a great book somewhere back there behind me in my bookshelf. And a lot of people that we work with, almost everyone has read that book. And then they said, well, I wanted to know how to take that Michael Gerber method and do something with it. Then they find our book. And so that's very common how they come to work with us.
Definitely.
And
so would you say, Josh, that the role, the identity of a technician from Michael Gerber's book is mostly the person who would need to work on their system, who would need your models?
Yes. Yeah. So if you are, servicing your clients, you're selling to them, you're working with them, you're delivering the product or service, then you're the technician, and somebody has to take that work and put it into systems so that you as the owner can be an owner. And that's oftentimes what happens, is that these companies, they have no one acting as the leader, the CEO, the owner, the visionary, because that person is busy doing the work. And so without that vision, without that direction, without those goals, that management, that leadership, you can't actually go anywhere as a business, and it just survives.
Okay.
And that's extremely normal. So we have to do is teach owners that the work that they're doing as a technician, other people can do if they break it into simple pieces and they have a clear strategy and clear direction. And then it's going to free them up to take on this new role, which is to be the visionary, to look for new products, new services, new partnerships, new marketing opportunities, new clients, new new zones to grow their business. And then all of a sudden their vision grows. And that's the other big transformation that a lot of people I work with is they had a vision of their business, which was something they could hold. This is something they could do themselves. This is something they could hold on to themselves. This is within their skill set, their knowledge base, and this is where they want to stay. And it's not until they see their business as pieces of systems, and then they get outside and slightly elevated, and they say, you know what? If I actually bring on people to work these systems, different skill sets, different areas, we could actually be 10 times bigger. We could even be 100 times bigger. And then the vision grows. And then once the vision grows, the person realizes as an owner, they're never going to get to that vision unless they start to delegate and document their systems. And so that's a big part of the shift. If your vision is small, you're not going to ever put in the work to do this.
One of the sentences from the book is on the importance of dissociation. So to be able to see those systems, you need to see yourself apart from the company you're managing, you're owning, right? So this is something that Sam faced when he saw that chart, when he saw that table, right? So if you're like working 10, 12 or 15 hours a day, it's not easy to dissociate from your business.
Right. I mean, you see your business as a reflection of you.
Yeah.
And so a good way to think about it would be, what would the business, how would it run if you weren't there for the next few months? And then all of a sudden it's the business, it's the systems, it's the people, it's the interactions happening, but you're not a part of it. And once you kind of think about it that way, you start to break apart what might be complex, because you might say, you know what, I work with clients, I get them this result. Okay, so what are the pieces of it? Well, I do, these 5 things in the beginning of the relationship, I do these 10 things in the middle, and I do these 6 things at the end. Okay, so could I find 3 people, like one to work with the client in the beginning to sell them, one to work with the client to help them, and then one to work with the client on aftercare, let's just say. And the answer is, oh, I could do that. And then you start to, break apart those separate pieces. And what we find is that owners are so creative at solving problems on the fly, instinctually, in real time, that the current way they're doing business, they can't hand it off to someone else because they're doing it so organically, so randomly, so in the moment. And so they say, no one else can do this. I mean, I'm the only one who could do this. And it's true, because they've made their business so complex and so nuanced and so random and customized that they're right. They're the only ones who could do it. And so we have to do is clarify and say, instead of saying you're going to, let's just say, paint every type of building, house, toy, machine, car, you're going to paint everything. We're going to say, you know what, you're going to paint residential houses. That's it. And the residential houses you paint are just going to be in this area code, like this zone. And you're only going to paint them in the, in the spring, summer, and the fall. That's it. Well, so now you've really condensed your zone, as opposed to, we'll paint anything. Well, that's hard. That's hard
Yeah.
to train. That's hard to systemize.
Yeah. I was thinking I had another association with Work the System and the E-Myth. So the E-Myth teaches future entrepreneurs to visualize their business as a franchise from the beginning. And what the Work the System does there, you are repairing the business owners that didn't have that vision, right? So you're trying to create their vision, their new objective. So what I want to ask you, how much does your client's vision change after you coaching them?
It usually gets bigger and broader, I would say. So at first, their vision is, I just want my company to be more efficient. I want my customers to be happier. I like my sales to go up, and they're thinking like 5% improvement, 10% improvement. Maybe instead of working 50 hours a week, I can work 40 hours a week. And once they work with that vision for a while, and they start to put some of these systems in place, and they start to bring some people into their company, they say, wow, I actually could do a lot more. And then it kind of goes beyond that. And then it kind of, it's a bigger and broader vision. Yeah. But I'm fine with them starting small, just to get them moving. And then they can see the possibilities that they realize, I actually could do more. And I think a big part of that as well is business owners are usually in a survival mindset. Is like, what do I have to do in my business in terms of sales to pay myself, my family, my people, and have a little bit of savings. And they think of just that. But then after a while, they say, you know what, actually, with this increased abundance, I could do more in my industry. I could do more in society. I could do more for these, in terms of helping different organizations or churches or whatever have you. And they start to really think about the good they can do in the world with their work, as opposed to just their own family. So it definitely broadens.
Okay, so it seems to me like they also need to enhance their identity in the process.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's
for example,
definitely.
like if someone micromanages for like 20 years, I don't see that person like change their behaviors and their systems overnight.
Definitely. Yeah, we say that the idea of the mindset shifting to seeing systems can happen instantly, but to work through the identity changes, the mechanical changes, the financial changes, that takes some time. It takes some years, and so you have to stick with it. And I don't expect someone's identity to say, "Hey, I'm going to be just an electrician in my town," to owning this empire that's changing the whole country in a day. But they start to see those possibilities as they build the systems. And so what we don't want to do is put someone, give them a dream without a way to do it. We want to say, let's start doing these things as you're dreaming bigger, and they will kind of match each other along the way. Because I'm not a believer in just kind of hoping and dreaming and then not giving them a tool to make it there.
Okay. So could you explain us, Josh, how do you explain what is strategic objective? Is it like a vision and mission, or is it it's completely different, something different from vision and mission?
I would say it's a vision and mission combined. Yeah. So it tells you where you're going and how you're going to get there and how you're going there. So it's all in one document. So a big part of our methodology is to keep it really simple, right? Small business owners don't have a lot of time, and they can't just write statements just to do it to make their shareholders happy. They actually have to do something with them. And so we want to make sure that the owner and everybody there knows, okay, this is where we're going, and this is why we're going there, and this is how we're going to get there. And here are the steps we're going to take. Here's what kind of customers we're going to go after. Here's what kind of services we're going to provide. Here's what kind of team we're going to build. And here's some of the core principles that are going to take us there. And then it gives them that direction. Like, this is true north. And so every decision you make, as long as it aligns by this one document, then we're moving in the right direction. Yeah. And if something comes our way and it's off by 10 degrees, we can say, let's not do that thing. Yeah. That's going to take us down a track that's not productive. Yes. With small companies, you really don't have a whole lot of extra time and resources. And so you really want to stay focused.
Yeah. So if I want to try to simplify things, a strategic objective would be one page, your vision and mission statements with some of the steps that serve you as guidelines in the process of making a decision as a business owner.
Definitely. Yeah. We like to say it's your 50,000 foot view down on your business and looking at it and kind of directing it at a very high level. So you're not talking technical in terms of where you're going to use this software and we're going to have these 5 people here. You don't talk about details. It's much broader than that.
Okay. So Josh, you like to call yourselves, you and Sam in your company, that you're fire preventers, not fire killers. So your clients were fire killers and you're trying to enhance their identity to become fire preventers. So could you make a promise when someone will be a part of your program or your coaching would become a fire preventer?
Yeah. Well, it's incremental, right? But I would say that every new system you put in place means that particular part of your business won't catch fire anymore, or there won't be emergencies anymore. So it's again, it's mathematical. So if you have 100 documented processes and procedures and your team knows them, you're going to have, 50 to 100 less emergencies happen that year. And so as you build more, I think Sam's company has 400 documented processes and procedures. And I can't think of the last time they had any kind of emergency at all. And what it does is it frees up their time and energy to think, okay, what is something that could happen? And a good example is this COVID-19 pandemic that's been going around. I don't know when this recording will get shared with your people, but they had for years in advance started to plan for what if an emergency happened and we could not come to our building, because they go to a physical building. And I think they have like 60 people that come to this building every day. What if there was a bomb threat or a fire or some kind of emergency? Could we all work from home remotely? And let's make sure we have the infrastructure, the technology, the relay systems, the security systems to make that happen. And so they were practicing, they were drilling, they were rehearsing. And then all of a sudden in America, no one was allowed to go to the office. And they were able to keep functioning, whereas their competitors just went out of business. And so they've been able to grow a lot during the fact that other people weren't prepared. They were just going from fire to fire to fire, but they had prevented all these fires, so they had opportunities to think, be more visionary, more broader, and to prevent emergencies in their business.
Okay, so let's pretend, Josh, that I'm your client and I have my educational institution, like 50 clients at this point in time, and mostly they're not business clients, they're like physical persons attending my seminars, and I'm like overwhelmed with sales and marketing and support. I'm a one-man band, What is the first thing I can benefit from the work the system?
Well, if you have the mindset shift, first is to say, wow, this company is not dependent on me. It's dependent on systems. Yeah. That would be the first thing. And then if you are really overwhelmed, an exercise that I go through with clients is I have them do, it's called the making time sheet. Because usually the owner is so stressed out about time, they can't make any good decisions. And it's a tedious exercise. But what we'll do is we'll list out every single thing you do during the course of several days. And then we'll find, this thing you do, we can automate. This thing you do, we can delegate. This thing you do, we can delete. And we'll start to free up your time. And so if we can free up a couple hours a day of your time, then you can start to work on the systems of your business. But until you free up a few hours a week, you're just going to be stuck. And so we want to make sure that we free up some time.
Okay, so the first goal is to free up some time.
Yes, unless you're someone who, we work with a lot of owners who just have a business that's inefficient and loose and chaotic, and they say, you know what, they're not super stressed out about their time, but they know their team is all over the place. And so we'll start directly with that strategic objective. And so we'll say, hey, we get the company together and say, we used to kind of go all these different directions. We're going to just focus on this one strategy, and the strategy involves systems.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just methodically work through the method. But for a solopreneur who is just doing everything themselves,
Yeah.
and we've got a lot of clients like that. We start with.
So what do you do with them? You're like connecting them with virtual assistants or part-time assistants?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes they don't have a VA. Sometimes they have no one else in their company. So it depends on the situation in terms of what kind of labor they're going to bring in. Some companies, I've had a company where they brought in some of their kids temporarily just to work a few hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or there's a piece of their business, maybe they're doing all the digital marketing themselves and they're just not very good at it. And we say, hey, you can just get an agency to do these things, and then it's going to free you up to move forward. So there's a lot of ways to think it through. But typically the owner's trying to do too much. And there might also be, let's just say your seminar business where maybe they're doing coaching, they're doing seminars, they're writing articles, they're doing all these things. And we say, you know what? Actually, let's just stop doing these two things for the next 3 months, because these things aren't really helping you. And if you just got these 4 hours back a week, you would really be able to build your business. Just pause on this and go to these other things for a while.
Do they take it well when you suggest
sometimes?
Sometimes they do, huh?
Yeah. So if I'm giving advice, we're on a podcast right now. If I'm giving someone advice for free, then usually they say, that sounds good, Josh, and they won't do it. If someone is paying, which is why investing, that's why I've got a coach. That's why I've got a mentor. That's why people I pay, because when they give me advice, I want to take it. I want to use it because I know I'm investing in their expertise to tell me from the outside, hey, Josh, you should do this. I know you should do this. I'm experienced. I've been here before. And then I'm paying them for that advice, and I'm willing to take the steps. But it takes a committed relationship to do that.
I understand. Yeah. So if I understood it well, and I think I did because I went through the book and through the online program, you don't create the procedures before you do not document the procedures, the steps before you have strategic objective, right? Or can you? Yes.
Well, that's in a perfect world, right? And so not everyone lives in a perfect world. I would say that yes, that's what you want to do, because your systems you document are supposed to align with your strategy, right? Otherwise, you might go off and build a system that is taking you the wrong direction, which is actually something you should be removing from your business. But I've had, in the real world, I've had clients where I had a plumbing company that would fix nuclear power plants, their plumbing. And they really wanted to work on their proposal writing process and how they would actually identify good clients, how they would write these proposals, get the bids and contracts. And I said, we should really focus on the company strategy first. And they said, no, we just want this system built. And so it was their core business. So it wasn't much harm to do it. So we built that system. And then once that had great success, he said, okay, now we need a company-wide strategy to do this. And then we wrote the strategic objective afterwards.
Okay.
But it should happen towards the beginning.
Yeah. Okay. So what I want to know, Josh, is if that's so simple, can you put in procedures? Can you document the behavior of the top salesman and then just give the manual to everyone else who are not top performers? Is it something that's achievable when using work the system methodology? For example,
it certainly would help. But there's a lot of parts of business that are very nuanced, right? So you write procedures for how to be a top salesperson or to be, an NBA basketball star or an athlete. It's going to help, but there is talent involved. There is people who have been experience is involved, talent is involved, and just someone's desire to do that skill. So if somebody gave me a process on how to design and edit a great video with sound and music and fades, I still wouldn't do very good. I would do better. I would probably get the technical pieces right, but I still wouldn't be very good. So you do have to find the right people to do the right tasks in your business.
Definitely. Yeah.
But then once you have the right people, then you want them to be as good as possible. And so in sales, there are some key components of how you build rapport, how you have this discussion to find out their needs and desires, pain points. There's certain things.
Yeah, but there's always this part of your nonverbal communication, the voice tonality. You cannot, or you can put that also in the procedures.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that's a great point. So
that's something I've read in the book where Sam did his first procedure in the call center, right? And what do you do when the phone rings? Like,
yeah, smile.
That's something that I ask my clients. I took that example from the book, and I often ask them, smile. They usually say you pick up the phone and you answer the phone. No, the first step is smile to get yourself in the right state of mind, right?
Definitely. Yeah. And so owners, like you, they love to learn, they love to grow, but usually the team members, employees they're not reading business books. They're not listening to podcasts. They're not doing these things. And so the only way you're going to help them is to grow them. And the only way you can grow them systematically, repeatedly, as employees come and go, is by having documentation. So whether it's a guideline procedure, like the guideline for building rapport, the guideline for, dress code, those things, and then the steps and the checklist, like these things are all going to help them grow. Otherwise,
they have limitations if they're not like the capacity, or they're not talented for the task. Yeah,
definitely. But this is a really key point: is that you want to build your business so that you don't need a superstar to be successful. So if you say the only way we can win here is if we have the best salespeople in the whole world, we've got to recruit the amazing, experienced, talented, the best. Well, that's pretty hard to do. But if you say, if we just recruit good people who can follow our steps, they're going to sell really good. And every once in a while, we'll find an amazing salesperson. But in the meantime, every salesperson can be successful because we gave them the steps, we gave them the guidelines, we gave them the training, and we made it simple for them to just follow it and have success. And that's a great business strategy, because if you make the strategy based on very difficult to find people, then you're going to have a challenging time.
Mm-hmm. That's my challenge, to be honest, to put myself here as an example, because my education is really, really costly, and I can find someone to replace me. I can find an agency to do the marketing, but I need to do the sales. I need to do the presentations. Everything else I'm able to delegate to someone else. But this particular part, it's like I cannot replicate it. Or is it just a belief, and I need a shift in my perspective?
It's probably both. It's probably both, right? So of all the things you do, maybe there are some smaller parts of your workshops or presentations. I don't know exactly what you train, Tasha, but there are probably pieces of it that you could train people to do for you, right? Maybe it's the mentorship, it's the coaching afterwards, it's the accountability afterwards, it's the technical, Sasha's 5 steps training, and they could get really good at that.
That's an idea. Yeah.
But and you could also package up your training as products or services or software. And so this is exactly, you could probably relate. So, Work the System, right? This is a book, and people want Sam to present it. Sam has been out of business for a long time because he doesn't need the money, and he enjoys to write and to read, just enjoy his life. And so I've been doing, taking his methodology and helping companies. And right now, I am certifying and training people underneath me. I've got 45 right now. And so they're certifying the method. I'm coaching them, and they are, because they're not me, they can actually fly to these different companies, work with them one-on-one, and do what I used to do, and do it better, because I can't help 100 companies, but each one of them can help 10. And so we're multiplying it. And it's like I've been doing consulting for over 10 years. I have an MBA. And I'd say, how can I package up all of that knowledge into someone else? And it's because I don't train my people to be really good at doing budget forecasts and cultural redesigns. I don't help them with leadership training. I don't help them with 50 different things. I just say, here is the thing that people are paying you for. They're paying you for helping them going from working in the business to working on the business to being true business owners. You're helping them through that transition. and here are the steps to take them through.
Mm-hmm.
And then they all bring their own skill sets. They all bring their industry knowledge, and they're all better than me. So, I mean, they're all better than me.
In their niche.
In their niche.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, they're going to be way better than me. Like the guy who does real estate, he's better at real estate than I am. You know, the woman who is a Pilates instructor, she's systemizing Pilates studios better than I could.
So I need to know these examples. So how can you systemize like the Pilates studio?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So there's clear steps, you know, how you draw them in, how you register them, how you do the class, you know, how you build rapport, how you upsell, how you build community. Like these are all components of a studio. And I can know them because I've worked with some studios, but the person who's owned studios, who's managed studios and is now systemizing studios, she knows it. She knows it way better than I do. Right. So, and she's documented every single piece, you know, how to hang the towels, how to lay out their mats, you know, every single thing. And so she can go in there as an authority and, you know, charge a high fee and do it really faster than I could do it and have a method that's repeatable. And then I can find someone else who just does, you know, CPAs and accounting firms. And I can have someone else who just does flooring stores or marketing, you know, digital marketing. And so that's what I want. And so it's seeing that the training and the delivery as not just, well, Josh has to do it. Now, the way I do it, probably I'm the only one who can, because when I work with clients, I'm looking at a lot of different things. You know, I'm interviewing their employees.
You see the larger system.
Yeah, but that would be unwise of me to say, hey, I want people to do it the way I did. They'd have to follow me around for 10 years. And that wouldn't be very efficient.
Okay. So we mentioned the example of the first step, how to answer the phone. Could you give us like the example, how should a procedure be documented? Like how should the steps be like written? Should they be like, they need to be very, very specific. So you can replicate them on almost anyone.
Yes. Yeah. What we like to say is that it's off the street. So you're going to write a procedure so that if you brought in someone new with the prerequisite skill set and interest level, and you brought them in and you said, here is the process, they could take it and they could do it without asking anyone any questions, without having to make mistakes. They could just take it and do it. And that's a perfect process, documented, but don't let the perfection of that process hold you back from getting started. So you might just get started by, on a piece of paper with a pen, just writing down, okay, first I research the client, then I find their contact information, then I give them a call. This is how I leave a voicemail. You can just write down.
Okay.
That's step one. And then you can refine it. You can add to it. Then you can hand it off to someone else who's experienced. They can add to it. They can refine it. And then you can hand it to someone new, and then they can take it and they can refine it. So the process of iteration and refinement is important. And if you wait until it's perfect first, no one will ever write it. And that is one of the big challenges, is that when I work with really smart people who are really good at their processes, they will want to write them perfect. And they do, but everyone else in the company can't do that. And so they're overwhelmed and they say, you know what, let's just hand it off to that guy because that guy seems to really like this stuff. And then no one else will document their processes because you've made it too difficult for the average person.
But so you need to make it like as simple as you can, right?
Yes.
These procedures shouldn't be like procedures for the smart people.
Yes, exactly. So average. So, and this is actually an interesting thing about Sam's company. He does an IQ test. So he makes sure that every person he hires is above average. It doesn't mean they need to be, a genius, but just they need to be able to, just as long as they're over 100, they can think, they're clear-headed, they can reason. And so he starts with reasonable people first. And then he makes sure that the procedure is simple. So instead of just saying process for how to hire somebody, well, that would be really, really, really long. But instead it's the process for how to post a job advertisement. So that's simple. It's, log into here, put the name of the job, put some of the requirements, put how to contact us, and then hit submit. And so that's like a 5-step process. It starts, it ends. it's easy to do. But if you write a process for how to hire somebody, that's going to include so many things, how to interview them, how to check their resumes, how to schedule the appointment, how to do the phone interview, group interview, testing. Like there's so many pieces, and then people get overwhelmed and they won't do it. So you have to stick with something very, very small. So when I work with clients and I want to get them to understand this, I say, okay, we're going to write a procedure together, and it's going to be the procedure for what do you do when the phone rings in your company? And it's, step one, like smile or whatever. Step two is say whatever you say, like, hi, this is Josh. Thanks for calling ABC Company. What can I do to help you? Or whatever it is. So you come up with that thing, and then you come up with the top 4 things that they might ask you about, and then how to transfer the call or how to, handle the call. And that's it. It's a simple thing. Yeah. And then you say, hey, now everyone here, even if it's your first day, you can answer the phone.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah, definitely for like jobs like working as in the customer service and answering phone. The other benefit is that creating procedures and documentation is on long term a lot cheaper than doing person on a group or one-on-one trainings. And the other problem with training is that I'm in the neuro-linguistic programming, so we have this presupposition that says the map is not the territory. So the word that comes, the word that you receive from my conversation can be like interpreted in like 5 different ways to simplify the things. So it can make the training process less costly.
Exactly, yeah, and you can tweak it, right? So if it's just done like this verbally, every single time you do it, it's very exhausting. You have to prepare for it. You never know if you were that successful, but if you have a repeatable system of doing it, then you could see, hey, our employees are missing this thing. Let's update our training so that the new employees will get it. And one other thing that's changed in the last 20 years is that it used to be just documented in writing. But now, of course, it's much more simple to document things as, screencast videos, audio messages, actual videos. And so a lot of the processes now that my clients are making to add some of the nuance, to add some of the technical aspects, is they're just recording the screen and they're saying, here is the process for how to update our website. First you go here, then you go there, and they're talking through it. They have a video, and that is a process. It's a training process. And so when someone new comes on board, they can watch that and then they know. And so it's a great way to continue to, it's scaling out your training without having to take a lot of effort.
Definitely. But if you're not creating video, tutorials, procedures, what is the best way to test your written procedures? So you give it to 10 different people and you watch them, how they perform it?
Yes. And in theory, you'd want to test out a few folks and you'd want to measure them. But in reality, everyone is so busy. Everyone's so busy that the testing is usually done in reality. So unless you're shooting a rocket to the moon or you're doing brain surgery, most of the things of business they're not life-threatening. Like if a mistake happens, it's okay. You can correct it. So what happens in real business is that you give somebody a process. Like I was working with a fence installation company. They give someone a process and they say, hey, just do this, follow this, and let's check your work. And then they'll tweak the process a little bit. And then it'll be fine. So they're not so consequential that if you get it wrong, the world's going to end. It's going to be pretty darn good. It's going to be better than it was before just by having something in writing. And so we test them out in the real world. We say, hey, hand it to someone who hasn't done it before. They're going to do it, check their work, and then we'll move on from there. Because to go from 98% perfect to 100% perfect is a lot of work. But to go from 70% perfect to 98% perfect is much easier. And that's mainly what you're doing is you're taking the 70%, taking it to 98, and then that extra 2%, you're going to improve on, but
measurable. So I've read a sentence, I think in a book, or I caught it in a video, that The systems shouldn't be perfect.
Uh-huh. Well, yeah, Sam's got a chapter. He says that to make it perfect is an imperfection, right? So you can go back to what we were talking about, to go from 70% to 98%, let's just say it costs you $5,000. But to go from 98% to 100%, that 2% improvement might cost you like another $20,000 of effort. And so that is actually, it's to get to perfect is imperfect. It's a waste. It's inefficient. It's a mistake to do that. Now, again, if you're doing, heart surgery, brain surgery, you're shooting to the moon, it's totally worth the investment. But for most things, if you're doing a sales call and you said, great to have you on the phone, but really you were supposed to say, it's very nice to have you on the phone. Well, it wasn't perfect, but it was pretty close. And so it's okay. Right. And we don't want to have to add those restrictions. And I think also having that 2% wiggle room allows everyone to do micro innovations, little tests. So they know the borders of how things are supposed to go, but then they also know that there's a little bit of wiggle room on each step where they can experiment. They can say, hey, you know what? I found out that and I like to use this example. So I used to sell insurance years ago. And if you said, I would like to set an appointment with you, you would get a certain amount of people who would say, sure. And they'd schedule the appointment. But if you say, hey, Jim, I'd like to pop on over tomorrow, Jim was more likely to say yes.
Cool.
Because
great example. Yeah.
And so that's a little innovation. So instead of schedule, you say pop on over. And in America, nobody says that. No one says pop on over. It's a very peculiar way to say it, but it because it's casual, people are more likely to schedule. And so those are the innovations you want your team to always be coming up with. And you say, hey, here's the boundaries, here's the borders, but try to make these better. And we want you to make it better.
Yeah. Josh, what someone could say, I'm sure like at least 100 people said, I'm working 15 hours a day and now you're asking me to write the procedures. I'm going to work for like 18 hours a day, and I'm trying to get help from you and Sam.
Exactly. Yeah, that's our biggest challenge. And so that's what we've tried to do is, build programs that free up your time to train you how to do it. And, we've got consultants that you could hire. I've got a writing company that you can use. And we also train your second in command. So basically, if you're saying, I want this done, I have 5 employees, maybe someone, just beneath me, my second in command can do this. And the answer is, of course. Yeah. Oftentimes my most successful clients is the ones where I don't really work with the owners. I work with somebody near the owner, right? Their office manager, general manager, their assistant, their HR manager, someone else who does like to get into the details. They do like to build out the operations, and the owner, they lead it. They say, hey, we're doing this. I'm investing in this. I care about this, but I'm going to hand it off to somebody beneath me. We call them, the business systems manager. And then that person will then do the mechanics. And so, if you have a team, it's easy. You can delegate it. I have a lot of online companies where it's, it's their virtual assistant is putting the systems in place. But it's a big bottleneck. So it's either going to take your time or it's going to take your money, but it's going to take some kind of investment that you have to make. And so we're here to kind of help.
Yeah, John. They just need to frame it as an investment. They're going to put more hours today to save, like Sam did, 98 hours per month or per week. I don't know. And I just want to ask you the last question. Can this work the system principles and strategy be applied on like private life?
Definitely. Yeah. The documentation doesn't have to be there. Often it's not. But
I'm going to have a baby, in a few months. How to change a diaper? 15 steps to change a diaper. I'm kidding, but you know what I mean. You have 3 kids.
Definitely. Exactly. Yeah. So raising kids, great thing to have systems for. What's funny is that the first couple of years of their life, as soon as you get a great system built, it's going to change because they're going to grow up, and then that won't work anymore. You know, their nap cycle, their eating cycle, all those things change. But it's a great way. So, you know, we've got 3 kids and we homeschool. And so we've got systems of how, you know, the breakfast system, the cleanup system, what we do on Saturdays. It's all, if you want to do something well, then you want to do it repeatedly and not be random. And so in order to work as a team, as a family, then you want to actually be clear in what is done. And so the easiest one that almost everyone can relate to is your spouse or your significant other. Is you want to have a good relationship. So you've determined that. And then you think, what are the components of a good relationship? Let's just say it's, it's eating together. Let's just say it's exercising together. Let's just say it's going to a date night. And so you say, okay, we're going to go to a date night every Friday night. My wife and I, every evening we go for a walk together. It's okay. So what are the mechanical pieces that are going to equal a great relationship? And let's make sure we just add those pieces, and then we repeat and repeat.
Yeah.
And then we tweak them and modify them, and that becomes a system that you can follow.
Yeah. So I could, like, if I'm not happy with something my wife did, like on Friday evening, I can say, "Didn't you see the procedures?"
I wouldn't do that. No, that does not go well.
I'm kidding, Josh. Josh, great talking to you. I had a great time and went even deeper from the stuff I learned from the book and the online program. Wish you all the well. And I would definitely recommend anyone watching our podcast to go to their website, to your website, workthesystem.com, right? I believe that you had a free book. You can download the free book still, or
sure. Yeah, you can download this book right here. You're watching the video at workthesystem.com. And then also the audio book is available for download as well.
Yeah, that's like really good time investment. Maybe not everyone will put everything in procedures, but I definitely recommend everyone to download and read at least the book, because it's really good, great resource.
Thanks, Sasha.
Thank you for your time, Josh.
Thank you.
And say hello to Sam.
I will. I definitely will.